I had always trusted my wife, Emma. We had been married for 5 years, and for the most part, things were good. Like any couple, we had our disagreements, but overall, I thought we were happy. Or so I believed. It all began on a Friday night. Emma told me she had been invited to a party by one of her colleagues. She reassured me it was just a casual get-together, drinks and light conversation, nothing to worry about. At first, I didn't think much of it. Emma was always so social, and I knew she needed time to unwind after work. I kissed her goodbye and told her to have a great time, fully trusting her. As the evening went on, I decided to relax at home with a movie. I occasionally texted her to check in and see how the party was going. She replied with short, polite messages, nothing unusual. But then came the picture. It was a photo of Emma at the party. She looked carefree, smiling, with her hair falling in loose curls. What struck me most was a caption, "Dancing the night away." Beneath the post, there were several comments from her colleagues, all praising her dance moves and calling her the life of the party. Curious, I clicked on the post to see the full image. That's when I noticed something unsettling. In the background, there was a man standing very close to Emma. His hand rested a little too low on her back. It wasn't exactly intimate, but something about it didn't feel right. Emma was a beautiful woman, and I trusted her completely, but I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that something was off. As the night dragged on, the nagging feeling grew stronger. I tried to focus on the movie, but my mind kept returning to that picture. Why was she dancing so closely with him? I knew most of her colleagues, but I didn't recognize this man. I told myself I was overthinking it. Maybe I was just being paranoid. The next morning, Emma came home as if everything was perfectly normal. She was cheerful and talkative, acting like nothing had happened. She mentioned the party casually, but when I asked about the man in the photo, her face changed for a brief moment. So quick that most people wouldn't have noticed. But I did. She explained that he was just a colleague from another department, someone who was married. She said they had shared a laugh on the dance floor, and that it was nothing more than that. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But deep down, something didn't feel right. A few days later, I found myself scrolling through Emma's social media again. That's when I stumbled upon a video, a short clip from the same party. In the video, Emma was laughing and dancing with the same man. But this time, there was no mistaking it. They were all over each other, arms around one another, moving with an intimacy that seemed far too personal for just colleagues. My heart sank as I watched the video, the truth I had been avoiding finally staring me in the face. That night, I confronted her. My voice trembled with a mix of disbelief and anger. She broke down immediately, confessing everything. She admitted that she had been seeing this man for months, sneaking around behind my back. The dancing was a tipping point. The moment I finally saw the truth, Emma admitted her affair hadn't just been physical. She said it had become an emotional escape, something she felt was missing in our relationship. She told me she had been unhappy for a while, but instead of talking to me about it, she sought validation from someone else. That innocent dance became the final straw for me. It wasn't just a betrayal. It was the years of lies, the trust shattered beyond repair. I couldn't look at her the same way anymore. Not long after, I moved out. The house felt empty, quieter, without the constant buzz of shared life. Emma begged me to reconsider, but the damage was done. I couldn't unsee what I had seen or forget how she had made me feel. In the end, I had to walk away, even though it hurt. Some things, once broken, can never be fixed. As I packed my things and moved into a small apartment downtown, the weight of it all pressed down on me like a heavy stone. The first few days after our separation were agonizing. I replayed the moments leading up to that night over and over, the subtle signs I'd missed, the small doubts I'd ignored. How could I have been so blind? It felt like a betrayal not just of me, but of the life we had built together. The memories, the laughter, the trips we had taken, all of it felt tainted now. For weeks, I struggled to regain some semblance of normalcy. I threw myself into work, spent more time with friends, and tried to reclaim the independence I had lost over the years of marriage. But no matter what I did, I couldn't shake the loneliness that crept in at night. The hardest part was that, despite everything, I still loved her. Even though she had shattered my trust, part of me missed her. I couldn't escape the memories of the woman I thought I knew. The one who laughed with me at dinner, shared her dreams, and confided her fears. How had it all unraveled so completely? One evening, about a month after we separated, Emma called. She said she wanted to talk. Reluctantly, I agreed. I wasn't sure what else there was to say, but I couldn't bring myself to completely shut her out. When I opened the door to my apartment, she looked different. Her face was thinner, her eyes tired. She seemed like someone who had been through her own kind of hell. For a brief moment, I almost felt sorry for her. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice breaking. "I never meant to hurt you. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I needed to apologize. I messed up, and I don't know how to fix it. I've been a mess without you. I realize now how much I took you for granted." Her words hit me harder than I expected. She was being honest, vulnerable even, but that didn't erase the pain I had endured. Emma went on to explain how her relationship with the other man had crumbled shortly after our separation. The excitement, she said, had quickly faded, and she realized too late that she had made a terrible mistake. "I never wanted to lose you," she continued, her voice trembling. "I love you, and I've been living with this guilt every day. I was looking for something that wasn't there. I'm not asking you to take me back, but I need you to know how truly sorry I am." I stood there, torn. Part of me still loved her, but the other part, the part that had been crushed by her betrayal, couldn't let go of the pain. Could I forgive her? Could I ever trust her again? "I don't know, Emma," I finally said, my voice thick with emotion. "I don't know if I can ever trust you again. I don't even know if I can be with you after everything that's happened." She nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "I understand," she whispered. "I'll give you space. I'll wait. I just hope one day you can see how truly sorry I am." She left shortly after, leaving me standing in the doorway, my heart heavy with indecision. As I closed the door, I realized something. I wasn't sure I wanted to go back to the way things were. Maybe the woman I had married wasn't the woman I thought she was. Maybe the relationship we had wasn't as perfect as I had imagined. I had trusted her completely, and she had betrayed that trust in the most devastating way. The idea of starting over, of rebuilding what was broken, seemed almost impossible. In the weeks that followed, I wrestled with my emotions. Every encounter with her, every apology, reopened the wound and reminded me of the pain I had felt when I first found out. Slowly, though, I began to understand that no amount of regret or apology could undo what had happened. In those quiet moments of reflection, I came to a painful realization. I had been holding on to the idea of us, not the reality. The reality was that we had both changed, and what we once shared no longer existed in the same way. In the end, I chose to let go. Emma and I stayed in occasional contact, but it wasn't the same. We were two different people now, living separate lives. The affair, the lies, the dance. It had all been a wake-up call. I couldn't go back to what we had, no matter how much I wished I could. Moving on was hard, but it was the only way forward. As time passed, I found peace, not with Emma, but with myself. I realized that sometimes love isn't enough to keep a relationship alive, especially when it's been tainted by betrayal. That was something I had to accept. As the months went by, the sting of betrayal gradually dulled, though the scars remained. I began to focus more on myself, something I hadn't truly done in years. I threw myself into my career, picked up new hobbies, rediscovered old passions, and spent more time with friends. I didn't have all the answers, but I knew one thing. I couldn't keep living in the past, holding on to a relationship that no longer existed. One evening, after a long day at work, I decided to go for a run through the city. Running had always been my way of clearing my mind, and that evening, the cold winter air felt refreshing against my face. Without meaning to, I ended up running past the park where Emma and I had first met. It felt strange. That park had held so many memories, but now it seemed like a completely different place. I stopped by the bench where we used to sit, talking for hours about everything and nothing. It was hard not to reflect on how naive I had been back then, so certain that we were building something that would last forever. The reality of what had happened since then hit me in waves. The lies, the affair, the heartbreak. But as I sat on that bench, I realized that I needed to forgive myself before I could ever forgive her. Forgiveness wasn't about letting Emma off the hook. It was about releasing myself from the weight of the past. That night marked a turning point. I had spent too much time focusing on what I had lost instead of appreciating what I still had. The chance to grow, to heal, and to move forward with my life. I didn't need Emma to be happy or whole. I had the power to rebuild my life on my own terms. A few weeks later, I was having dinner with friends at a new restaurant I'd wanted to try. As I laughed and chatted with them, I realized how much I had changed. I felt lighter, freer, and more at peace with where I was. I wasn't looking for validation from anyone, not even Emma. Happiness, I'd learned, wasn't something someone else could give me. It was something I had to cultivate within myself. A few months later, I heard through mutual friends that Emma had moved on. She had started seeing someone new, someone she met at a therapy group for people navigating difficult breakups. Hearing this felt strange, but it didn't hurt like I thought it would. If anything, it was a reminder of how much we had both grown apart. I saw her briefly at a gathering a few months after that. It was one of those awkward social events where old friends from both sides meet. We exchanged polite hellos, but it was clear we were different people now. She looked more settled, more grounded, but the connection we once shared was gone, buried under the weight of everything that had happened. As the years went by, Emma and I stopped communicating entirely. We lived separate lives, and I was at peace with that. I had come to understand that sometimes relationships end not because of one single event or mistake, but because the foundation was never as strong as we thought. Sometimes love simply fades away, and there's nothing to be done about it. I found love again, but it was different this time. It wasn't based on illusions or unspoken expectations. It was built on trust, communication, and mutual respect. Looking back on everything that had happened with Emma, the good and the bad, I realized it was all part of my journey. The experience taught me the value of self-respect, the importance of recognizing when it's time to walk away, and the strength that comes from understanding that love isn't just about holding on. Sometimes it's about knowing when to let go. That innocent dance, which once symbolized betrayal, became just another moment in the story of my life. It was a reminder that even the most painful experiences can lead to growth and healing. And in the end, I was grateful for that lesson because it shaped who I am today, a man who knows his worth, trusts himself, and isn't afraid to move forward.